Well, a very good morning to you as we speak. We're coming to you live from inside the museum here in Mangaung in Bloemfontein. It's the Anglo-Boer War Museum, and for years it was known as, shall we say, a bit of a whitewash, white man's war, but we've started to correct this notion as we are bringing you a new part of the museum, the Sol Plaatje section. And this particular section is there to showcase the role of black South Africans in this war as interpreters, as was the like of Sol Plaatje, in a bid to make sure that this war is not just considered as one that was fought by the fairer race or the lighter skinned, shall we say, but that ordinary South Africans also played a part and a role in this particular place, and that they too suffered, as we saw a little bit earlier, the remembrance garden there that had black, white men, women, children, especially those who were elderly who died in the Anglo-Boer War, what is now known as the South African War. And of course, they are being remembered today. What we're looking at now is the cutting of the ribbon that will be opening the Sol Plaatje section of the War Museum.
What I would do, ladies and gentlemen, I'd say 1, 2, 3, just 3 times. And the minister will cut the report. 1, 2, 3. It's difficult.
A round of applause there. We just saw the opening of the Sol Plaatje Museum, or the section at least of the War Museum. Very interesting quote there that the minister is looking at now. Does justice bid us to remember today how many thousands of the dark race perished also in concentration camps in a quarrel that was not theirs? That's a quote there by Emily Hobhouse.
We're just going to read this part, Sol Plaatje, Hall, Sol Holo, with a very important quotation. Does justice bid us to remember today how many thousands of the dark ones perished, race perished, also in concentration camps, in a quarrel that was not theirs, by Emily Hobhouse. Director, can you please take me seat?
Well, a very good morning to you once again. If you've just joined us, we're coming to you live from the War Museum in Mangaung in Bloemfontein. A number of proceedings are happening today in honor, or in the launch at least, of December being Reconciliation Month. And among those is the opening of this new section of the museum. It is the Sol Plaatje Hall, and it is just surrounded by the contribution of black South Africans in this war that was once named the White Man's War, but clearly now termed as the South African War, because it shows that it was a number of races that were involved here, and the suffering did not only belong to white women and children, but also those of black people who were in concentration camps. It is a very, very important component in a bid to foster reconciliation and a spirit of togetherness in the country. So I'm joined by, shall we say, a young man. He's only but 30, but he is a guest lecturer at the Sol Plaatje University. He's also curator, and he's also active in his community. Twin, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. Today is a very remarkable day. We know that Sol Plaatje has played a very, very big role in the liberation of the South Africans, especially the blacks. Although he never had a formal education, we know he went on to be a journalist and inspire people like us. Myself, as a young South African, I'm very, very proud of this moment, and I believe this is a big step that the War Museum has taken with the Department of Agriculture, Honourable Minister, and everyone doing a big job for South Africa.
Many people might be wondering what role did he play in this particular war. He was was an interpreter who had great ambitions, in fact, of making sure that South Africans, the majority of which, would find liberation at the end of this. There were some negotiations that he had undertaken to try and foster the freedom of black South Africans here. But as we know, that they failed, and the country experienced some dark days before things became better. But as a young man, I'm going to ask you to wear that cap for a moment or two. How important do you think that ordinary young South Africans remember the role of Sol Plaatje?
You know, Sol Plaatje was a people's person, you know. He inspired people. He went all his way. He was selflessness. So what young people must do is just to go out there and inspire. They should take things into their own hands and start doing and building South Africa. This is South Africa. We've got a very rich history, and we should all be proud of it and tell a story. Yes.
He was also an intellectual and one of those who were quite pivotal in the founding of what we know now as the ANC. And we can say quite a lot about his contribution. But what I love about this particular section is that it's not just about the man himself. We have John Jabavu here and the statue thereof here, his contribution and the role he played also highlighted here. Ordinary black society prior to 1899, women, children, you name them, they are highlighted here, and it's very, very important that all South Africans, in fact, take a look at that contribution. We're going to take a quick ad break now. I think it's almost time for us to say goodbye to our SABC2 viewers, but the show does indeed go on, so do stay with us.